Hello pioneers. Today we're going to take a bit more look at the Pi blockchain and see if it truly is the perfect cryptocurrency. So about a month ago, the Coin Bureau channel released a video on stating what he thought would be the perfect cryptocurrency. Now he didn't name any blockchain, but he had these 9 points which he described as making a currency perfect. So we have equitable distribution, no ICO, fair launch, robust consensus mechanism, supply adjustment based on demand, stable value, privacy and interoperability, decentralized exchanges, and effective government. So let's look at the equitable distribution of Pi. So we know the core team has 20% of the supply, and the rest of the 80% goes out to the community. We know that in the 80%, 20 billion is for the pre-mainnet mining rewards, 45 billion for mainnet, liquidity pool 5 billion, and 10 billion for the foundation. So we can pretty well see here that 80% is quite a good equitable distribution. So we'll tick that off. No ICO, this is pretty cut and dry. We've had this in the white paper, how Pi isn't running an ICO, and there's no crowdfunding. It's been iterated again by the core team. So that's pretty well done, no ICO. Fair launch, again, this is pretty cut and dry. Anyone that can got a mobile phone can download the app, and as long as you've got a code, you can sign up. So I think it's fair to say that Pi Networks had a fair launch as well. The consensus mechanism. We all know that we're running the Stellar Consensus Protocol, and the Stellar Consensus Protocol uses a federated Byzantine agreement. This is one of my projects, which is an oracle that I call Soothsayer. Now, if we scroll down here a bit, we can see that this is very similar to the consensus mechanism. So if we use this diagram from the oracle, we can go through it a bit more. So the core node decides on which other nodes it would like to trust to reach an agreement. The node's trusted set of nodes is called a quorum set, and the core node sets a threshold, which is the minimum number of nodes in a quorum set that must agree to reach the consensus. This is called a quorum, and under quorum you need at least 50%. Right? So in a quorum set of 6 nodes, you wouldn't be able to have a threshold of 3. Right? So you can see here we've got a threshold of 4. Right? So this is a very good mechanism, it really works well. The other thing to have a look in a consensus mechanism is the thing called the blockchain trilemma. Right? Now this is a problem on some blockchains, but it's really not on ours. First of all, you need decentralization. Right? So with decentralization, that's going to come. We're currently in centralized system in a closed mainnet, but we will go to a fully decentralized system. We've just taken a look at the blockchain consensus mechanism, so we know we have the security there. And the last one is the scalability. So with the scalability, we know once we go to protocol 19, that we get introduced to layer 2 solutions in the form of payment channels. Right? So we don't have any scalability problems either. Right? So there's no trilemma problem that other blockchains have. So I think it's safe to say that we have a robust consensus mechanism. Supply adjustment based on demand. Now, in the white paper, we've all seen this, how we have a maximum total supply of 100 billion. Right? But if you go down further into the white paper, you can see that in closed mainnet that they're allowed to do calibrations on the token model. And this token model is subject to tweaking before the open mainnet comes. And if you go down further, after the completion of the 100 billion distribution of pi, there actually can be inflation, right? So we still, even though this is a max supply, we actually do have a mechanism to have some form of inflation. It says here the inflation may be necessary, and this will be controlled under a decentralized way, so this will probably be like a governance DAO, right? So you can see this is good though, because now we've fulfilled our demand for a supply adjustment based on demand. Look at stable value, and let's see if pi can actually be a stable coin. How do we establish value normally? We normally do it through the exchanges. Now, I've always stated that, pi might not necessarily actually be listed on an exchange, right? It might be in its own sort of system, away from being manipulated. So we might not even see exchanges. How do we establish value then, Well, the pi might be actually paired with Bitcoin. We've seen that previously, and we know Bitcoin's always described as being digital gold, so there's a possibility there. In our ecosystem, we've got things like Pi Converter, and we've also got this very interesting thing, which is the Pi consensus that's been done on the test Pi through one of the hackathon winners, World of Pi. So there's a few things around here that we can do to establish value. Now, if I bring up this again, this was my email to my earning team, right? And this is me just describing all these different ways, different values of pi. And you can see under the highest one here, I actually said that the only real way this really works is that if it becomes a stable coin, right? Because at a low price, none of the ecosystem works. However, at a high price, you don't want that to drop down to 10,000 either. So it's got a bit of validity there to be known as a stable coin. So I guess what I'm saying here is that we don't really know until we establish value. So I'm just going to leave that as orange. Privacy and interoperability. Now, privacy sort of goes against what blockchain's all about, because it's supposed to be transparent, right? And you can see here you can just punch in a wallet and bring up, all the transactions that wallet has. But however, we're going to be doing things like owning your own data and be your own bank, right? And this is where you're going to own your data and everything, and people are going to have to ask you permission, and you have to authorize those things to show your data. So there is a level of privacy. Interoperability is really interesting here, right? Now, we know we've got these two Pi bridges bridging over to Binance, right? And I've also been speculating that we'll probably get a bridge from Stellar as well, so, because that's bringing the Forex onto blockchain and DeFi. Now, if we look at pibridge.org, right, they're not just bridging to Binance, right? They're bridging to Polygon, Avalanche, Ethereum, Cosmos, and Solana, right? So this isn't just Binance, this is a lot bigger than that. Now, I want you to take particular interest in Binance, Polygon, and Avalanche, right? Now, this was just recently come out of the AMA with pibridge.org. So you can see here again, they're confirming that these are the blockchains, and it's in their white paper as well. But if we look at our ISO 20022 collaboration here, I've always included Pi Network in it, right? Now, as you can see, when we bring on pibridge.org, now we've got our connection into the ISO 20022 ecosystem, right? So now we actually have an ecosystem, right? So big thing, right? And we know in open mainnet we're going to need these bridges as well. So I think it's fair to say that we've covered privacy and interoperability. So decentralized exchanges. What do we have under here? We have things like swaps and peer-to-peer exchanges. Now, under the Stellar blockchain, inbuilt into the blockchain, they have a peer-to-peer exchange, right? This is already known. We have Stellar X on their system. And so it's fair to say that under the Pi network, we also have a peer-to-peer exchange inbuilt into the blockchain, right? So we're not going to know more about this until we reach into open mainnet, you know, to see whether it's coming. But in preparation, you know, I'm developing the Pingo swap here and also Pi X exchange. Now, I've already stated before that, you know, we might not need exchanges, but so why do we need these? Right? Well, that's because we're going to be minting our own tokens. Right? So every project's going to be able to mint a token, just like we see under Ethereum and all that, except we won't be using smart contracts to do it. Now, this is my tokenomics model for Pi Metaverse, but this isn't just for Metaverse. Right? For every project that you develop, you'll be able to mint your own tokens. Right? So we're going to have tokens for Pingo Swap, and we're going to have a token model for Pi X as well. So we've got the decentralized exchanges covered. And lastly, let's talk about effective governance. All right, so core team's running all this at the moment. In the white paper, you know, there's very detailed what they had for less than 5 million members. This is about the time when I joined the Pi network. It was about 5 million, I think. So when they switched over to more than 5 million, they created something called a constitutional convention, right? Which is where obviously they go out to the community and you know, the committee checks, you know, what suggestions are out there and how, you know, we want to do things, and then decisions are made by the core team. We saw before that when we talked about the inflation, you know, that once we start doing any inflation decisions, you know, they're going to be talking about a decentralized DAO, you know, so, you know, that's in the works as well. So I think we're pretty safe to say that we have an effective governance as well, right? So if you look at our list, we've done pretty well. You know, we've got 8 out of the 9 statements here, you know, and we've only got really the value that's still in question, you know, which is it's always in question, isn't it? We don't know what the value is yet. So that's pretty great. You know, we've pretty well covered all the points. And so what can we determine by this? You know, I mean, you ask me, it looks like the Pi network is, you know, the perfect cryptocurrency. So that's a great thing.